Thanks everyone, it's really nice to be here today. I'm Tamsin and I'm a freelance communication specialist. I'm based in West Yorkshire with experience in supporting community and cultural projects. I've worked in communications for over 25 years now, including on the Creative People and Places programme, which is based in 40 areas across England, where communities take the lead in creating and choosing art and cultural activities. The work I really love is working with and for community groups, especially projects like Big Locals, where you're creating change that's led by your community. So I'm really excited to be working with you all and with Peg and Amanda on the support offer. Just want to tell you a little bit more about the support that is available to you. It's very much if you're looking to raise the profile of your Big Local, or share your stories of impact and change, if you want help reaching your target audiences, for example, recruiting volunteers. If you're thinking about making the most of your legacy, we can help with this. So Peg and I will be working on the bespoke support offer for you, and Amanda's going to be leading a peer learning network. So I'm going to start by telling you a bit more about the bespoke support. Basically, the process starts with a communications MOT. So we'll look at the current way you're communicating and telling your stories, what channels are you using. We'll help you map who you're trying to reach and what you want to share. And I'll work with you to identify how and where your communications can make a bigger impact. So we'll make recommendations, some will be about quick wins, some will be about longer term possibilities. And based on that MOT, we can then put together a stage 2 offer, which is a bespoke plan that will kind of help you boost skills and confidence in specific areas that have been identified through the MOT. So examples of the stage 2 offer could include kind of skills booster workshops, so helping you to develop a communications plan, helping you to get your stories in the media, developing your social media skills and confidence, or creating effective email newsletters, and how to make your communications more inclusive and accessible. There's also options around some very kind of specific support. So say your website doesn't quite represent where your organisation's at now, we can help you kind of develop your current website, or if you need a new one, we can work with you to commission a specialist and kind of support you through the process of working, for example, with a web developer or a designer. And also on offer are mentoring sessions if you've got a specific challenge you want to tackle. And really, the key is that it's bespoke. So we can design something that helps you to meet your needs. It's not a one size fits all. We're kind of flexible and curious, and we want to build a really trusted relationship with you. So your support offer will be completely unique to your place and your needs. And as part of this overall package, which Amanda will talk about in a bit, you can also join our communications learning network. So that will really be about learning with and from the other Big Locals, with a group of people who are kind of grappling with similar challenges. So you have a support network too. So I think kind of together it forms a really nice holistic package of support. But I'll hand over to Peg to talk about her offer.
Thanks, Tamsin. So I'll be working along with Tamsin, doing a lot of the similar things that Tamsin's just talked about. Just to give you a bit of background about myself, well, I've worked with communities and community organisations for over 25 years, all sorts of different roles. I've been a funder, I've given a lot of support, being a consultant, I've worked on community involvement and regeneration, I've run a council voluntary service, and more. But then about 10 years ago, I decided to change careers, and I became a journalist and TV and radio presenter, as you do. And I actually started off by volunteering at a community radio station, where I still volunteer to this day. And now, as well as doing some of that other work, I now work most of the time as a presenter. I work as a broadcast journalist for a number of places, including the BBC. I work as a presenter. You might sometimes see me on Steph's Packed Lunch on Channel 4. I've got hundreds of hours of live current affairs and politics TV. I make and host quite a number of podcasts, from 80s alternative music through to one I've just finished with inspirational nurses. So a real diverse range. And I still work with communities about getting your voice out there. So building on what Tamsin said about the kind of services that we can offer, as I say, I will do a lot of that similar stuff, comms MOT, helping you work out your story, where are you at, Who are you trying to talk to? Who do you want to talk to? How's the best way to talk to them? And then also I'll be offering quite a lot of practical workshops. So things like using social media, making videos on your phone, podcasting, how do you do it? Working with the media, public speaking, or even like we're doing here, live streaming. And I can do that in a number of ways. I can run practical workshops, so you go off and do it yourself. We can agree a program where I help you learn those skills and I support and mentor you to get going yourselves. So I'm working with you and then you get going yourself, or you can ask me to do them for you, but you're always in charge. You're always deciding what's said, what the story is. So as Tamsin was saying, it's really bespoke. It's about what you want and what you need, and we'll respond to that. So if I can hand over to Amanda now to talk about some of the networking and learning opportunities.
Thanks, Peg. Hi, everyone. It's really lovely to see you all, and thank you for joining us this afternoon. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about the Communications Learning Network, but before I dive into that, just to say hi. So I'm Amanda, and I work as a facilitator and coach around the country. I live in London at the moment, and I've been working with Creative People in Places and Creative Civic Change and lots of other programs which focus on communities taking the lead. To support thinking around learning, really, and to support learning networks, which I see as a really valuable space just to pause, to catch your breath, to think about what you're up to. And sometimes we don't take the time to do that. So it's a real luxury, but I really encourage everyone to do that as much as you can. Learning in this way, kind of with and for each other, from each other, also gives a chance to connect and to make new friendships, to share ideas, to share experiences. And as I heard someone say the other day when they came out of a big session that we'd run for a program, they said it feels really reassuring to know that we're not the only one thinking about these challenges. So there's something really precious about having space to learn and to share and to connect across with others, and just to reflect on what you do and how brilliant you are, as well as the sticky bits. So my role in all of this is to host some of those conversations, to facilitate them for you. And we are planning 3 conversations between now and the spring. In November and January, there'll be 2 Zoom conversations where you can come together and share some of your experiences, some of your learning, and hear how others are working and what they're doing. Because there's also something really valuable about hearing what works for other people and thinking about how that might work for you. And then we're really hoping that in March we'll have a big face-to-face session as well, so we can get everyone together to really dive into some of these questions. And obviously we will all be at Big Local Connects before then, so you can meet us then too if you're coming along and have a conversation with us about what you would like to see. Because what we're really keen is all the things that we do are what would be really valuable and useful for you. And we're really happy to hear what you'd like. We're also hoping to put on some masterclasses and some other learning sessions too. And again, we'd love to hear what would be useful for you and what you would find really valuable. And then we can shape and mould those in terms of what they look like, when they are, all that kind of thing. So I think that's it from me. I'm going to hand back to Helen, who is going to mastermind questions from you all.
Thank you all so much. Right, let me check in and see if we've got any questions. One that we have got that's come through to me is, how can big locals keep costs low by not depending on external organisations to do things like website management once the big local funding ends? I'm not sure who wants to take that one.
Well, I'll kick off if you want on that one. I mean, one of the keys for that is when you're doing work now is to start thinking about that now. So, for example, if we take website as an example, if you're refreshing your website, think then about longer term. How are you going to look after it? How can you design something now that is a bit future proof? Because one of the big challenges we all know is what you do now in 2-3 years time, the world might be a very different place. You know, for example, with websites, you know, the format that everybody kind of follows on websites really changed a few years ago. So if you had a website a few years ago, they can feel quite dated. So to design knowing that you're going to upgrade as you go along. But the other way with that is about the skills. So you've got the skills to do it yourself. So to do things now whilst at the same time learning, knowing you're going to take over, I think is really the right way to think about doing stuff. So you don't just bring people in to do, you bring people in to do and work with you and help you along the way. And I think all of us, I mean, obviously everything Amanda was just talking about was that, but certainly me and Tamsin, that's a big part of where we're coming from. I think you'd agree, wouldn't you, Tamsin, that you know, we're not here to do for other people. If they want us to do stuff, we want to make sure that everybody's with us. So it's about sharing the skills. So at the end of it, we don't just don't go, so I'll see you later. We go and you're able to own it and take it on yourself. Is that fair?
Absolutely, and I think you're quite right to talk about thinking about that in advance. And I think there are some low-cost solutions. I think if we can help you build those skills, you know there are hosting packages that don't need a lot of technical support coming alongside them. You know, there would be affordable packages for people to use when the funding comes to an end.
Thank you both. The next question that I have is, what experience do you all have working with communities in rural areas where there might be less infrastructure in terms of cultural and creative outputs?
I've worked on a project called Art Unpacked, which toured. It was visual arts exhibitions that toured to rural venues across kind of North Yorkshire, the East Riding, and other parts of the north. And that was a really interesting project to work on. It was about developing new audiences for art, and it was the kind of contemporary art that people might expect to go to a city gallery to see, but actually it was all about bringing it to venues on people's doorsteps. So there was lots, you know, it was in libraries, it was in kind of heritage centres, community venues across the north. And so it was really interesting process to kind of think about. It wasn't all about digital communication. I think it was about really thinking about who your local partners are, where the kind of the frontline organisations are in an area, how people are getting information at their doctors, at their libraries. So yeah, I think it's really thinking about people's ability to kind of travel around that area and where they're finding their information and making sure you get it in the right spots. Peg, do you want to?
I didn't really want to add much more than that. I was just thinking, I mean, obviously places have got a lot better in terms of broadband, haven't they? A lot of rural areas. I know, for example, where my mum is, because I live in Leeds, so it is not an issue for me, but where my mum is, a year ago we couldn't get any signal. Now we've got signal. So I know some of that is getting better, but just on that thing about you can't just rely on digital, can you? And you, as I say, using what community assets are already there. I've done quite a bit of work with community land trusts and community-led housing, and a lot of that is in rural areas. And I think there's often such good engagement anyway and involvement that you've got in local areas. If you can then place the more creative work into those places where people go, it can be really, really productive.
And I was just going to add, Tamsin and I both worked with the Creative People and Places programme, which is run by Arts Council England or funded by Arts Council England, to support communities in areas where there's less engagement in cultural activity. And for many of those projects that were based around the country, there's 40 of them now. Many of those are in areas where there is no other cultural infrastructure. There's nothing else happening. Some of them are very rural areas, some of them are very coastal, very, very different kind of mix of places that the projects are located in. And there was a huge amount of learning there from all of those different projects about the ways that work for them. And what I really took from that experience was everybody had to work out their own way for their place and with the communities that they wanted to work with and in and were part of, to create conversations, to create the kind of ways of working that engaged everybody as much as possible. But I think there's challenges wherever you are, whether it's a rural community or another community. It's about finding that particular way of working. that's successful.
Because what I mean, exactly what you said there. Sorry, I don't know if it's my noise. Let me unmute a different way, see if that helps better. I think what I think is lovely about what you said and what Tamsin said, and I think what I probably tried to say was, we're all saying it's about what works in your community. It's not about a one size fits all. And I think if there's any message comes from this webinar, is that if you do work with us and take up the option, we are not coming in to go, this is the answer, this is how you do it. You know, it is really right. Where are you? What are you trying to do? What story are you trying to tell? What have you got going on already? What is there we can build in? And everything will be bespoke and will be based on those local circumstances.
Thank you. We've had a question come in from Julia, who's asked, how might big local areas connect with local media students who might volunteer their time? And could you help with this?
I'm going to hand that one to Peg.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I think that's a great idea actually, because media students and also community media as well, so not just the students, media students really need practical experience, and something like this could give them all sorts of practical experience. So I think, yeah, of course we can try and make the connections. The thing will be to identify what the local courses are, what the local colleges that are running courses are, and then just try and make those connections. I think though it's also about having being clear about what it is you want people to do. So one of the things that's difficult with if you're offering it to students is you just say, oh, we need someone to do our media. I think you have to think quite a bit more about exactly what do we mean by that. So are we talking about the fact we want someone to make stuff for social media, we want videos, we want things like that, or do we want something completely different? Because obviously that the different students will have different interests and they'll be after different things. So part of what we can do as well is really help you through that, what you're asking someone to do, and also about what you need to do to support them in order to do their job. Because it's really hard to just say to someone, will you do my media? Because they need to be telling your story. It's not their story, it's your story. And so in order to do that, you've got to give them your story. And sometimes that's harder than it sounds, because you might even be a bit confused yourself, or you might not know what your story is. So I think there's quite a role we can do there in terms of helping with that, so that if there are students about, then you're giving them all the info and the support and the direction that they can get running with.
Thanks, Peg. A question's come in as well from Roger about how do we assess who of you we engage with, especially across different big locals and legacy projects, and the variety of projects that big locals are working on. So wind turbine may be an estate learning education project, while a housing project and a BMX track are likely to be different in their audience. And I'm wondering if I should start off here with explaining how it works in accessing the support. So if you are interested in any of the support we have on offer through Make It Happen, so mastering your communications or community engagement and volunteering, or if it's to do with an assets project or becoming a legal body, the first step is to get in touch with us at the support@localtrust.org.uk email address, or give us a call, and my colleague Mike will post the telephone number in the chat for you. Once that initial inquiries come through, then one of the partnership and learning team will give you a call back to chat about your project, your idea, the support that you're interested in, or the range of support, because it might be that you're not sure, depending on your big local plan or your particular project, which support is the most suitable. So we'll have that initial chat for you. We'll then send you some suggestions, give you links and a bit more information. And then we'd invite you to fill out an expression of interest for the particular support that you're interested in. We're sort of saying at the moment that although there is a range of support, we would advise big locals to take up one support offer at any time, because it is a lot. It's sort of a time commitment. You're all volunteers. You need a key contact that's going to feed back to the partnership and get involved in the support. So it's quite a lot to ask of partnerships. So we're advising kind of taking up and expressing an interest in one support at a time. But having said that, if when you're working on a particular project, if you're doing a community engagement project, if you identify that some comms support would be really useful, then your support partner will get back in touch with me or a member of the team, and we will then link you up with either Tamsin or Peg. So there are opportunities to kind of access different supports. There is a chance to link up more. So if you're thinking that you're just working on an asset, but actually it's about doing a community hub, at some point you will want to promote that in your areas, and you will want to be engaging different audiences and reaching the wider community. So at that time, it might be suitable for us to bring in the support offer as well. I hope that answers your question, but sort of simply, it's a conversation between partnerships and learning, member of the partnerships and learning team in the big local area to find out more, and then we take it from there on a case-by-case basis. Also, just to say, I know it's been mentioned that all of our support partners will be at Connect. So if you're attending Connect, then please do sign up. That's an opportunity to find out more about the support as well and get to know the support partners better. I don't know if Tamsin or Peg or Amanda, you wanted to add anything to that, or I can go on to the next question.
I was just going to really briefly say whether, obviously Tamsin and Peg are both brilliant communications experts in their own right, with slightly different approaches, but the work, and I should have said this at the beginning, the learning space, the Communications Learning Network, is for anybody interested in this area of practice. So whether you work with Tamsin or Peg, or just are really curious about this, is something you want to learn more about, everybody's welcome to come to the Learning Network. You don't have to make a decision about a choice in that kind of context. But I think it's just important to say it's there for all.
Thank you, Amanda. And I guess linked to that, another question that's come through from Emma was, will there be workshops available separate to the bespoke support package hours? So shall I hand that over to you, Amanda, just to kind of talk a bit more about that?
Tamsin, do you want to dive in first?
I'll dive in first then. So yeah, the idea of the Learning Network is that there is this space to kind of share and learn from other big local partnerships. And what we would like to do is, you know, when we're hearing what the kind of common challenges are, we would like to kind of then program some kind of really short masterclasses based on the themes that we're hearing in the network and in the bespoke work. We just kind of hold on that to make sure there is that appetite for it. We know there's kind of lots and lots going on, lots of different learning events across the different support offers. So we would definitely like to program some workshops, and it would probably be in the kind of latter half of the year. But that's kind of going to depend on what people are up for, what they tell us they need.
And I just add, come and talk to us at Big Local Connects if you're there, and let us know what you'd love to hear, because we can test some of the kind of context of our appetite and think about what might work as a collective offer when we hear what you'd love to know more about.
And at Connects, there will be a taster session to give you a flavour of what peer learning is about. So yeah, do come along to the taster session.
Thank you, everybody. I think that's all of our questions, and we're nearly at our half an hour. So I'll just say that Mike has put the email address and the telephone number in the chat. So please do get in touch, and one of the team will get back to you to discuss the support in more detail. But thank you all for joining and for asking all of your questions, and hopefully we'll see you again soon. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.